Before we start on this horror film that's in theaters right now, please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. It Lives Inside is a horror film that comes from first-time director Bishal Dutta. And he's done some short films and stuff before, but this is his first directorial debut, full feature length. A Indian teenage immigrant that is coming to terms with living in an American world. She does not like any of the Indian traditions that her parents is throwing at her. And she's just like, I just want to go to school. I speak English around the house.
But I don't think she dislikes her Indian traditions. I think she's just trying to assimilate into a more of an American family, aka a white family. There are these shots of her, like the first time we see her, like shaving her arms and stuff like that, and being embarrassed of her mother's cooking and checking if she smells like their food before she leaves the house. So she's really trying to be like the all-American, kind of white type teenager. So she's having a hard time assimilating to American culture because she was raised with much more Indian culture.
You said it exactly how I meant to say it. That's exactly how I meant to say it. And when she's in school, people are kind of asking her about her friend Tamira. She used to be best friends with Tamira, but now Tamira is estranged, and she's wearing this big black jacket, and she's carrying around a weird jar in school.
People are like, is this a cultural thing? And she's like, no, I don't know what's going on with Tamira. So she's trying to like distance herself from her old friend Tamira.
But there's something evil within this jar.
Our main character, whose name is longer than it is, but she insists on being called Sam. She's trying to Americanize her name, Americanize herself, and she's having this struggle with her mom because her mom is a first generation immigrant, and so she's keeping up all the traditions that she grew up with. But Sam is like, yo, we're not in India anymore. We're in America. How come you can't assimilate like me and dad? And so she's really having this battle with her mom over whether or not she assimilates fully into like the American culture. And that stuff I liked a lot.
I like that stuff.
And I thought it was fun. And I liked the fact that the boy that she had a crush on was this white guy who was trying to be open to, their traditions, but she was having a hard time sharing that side of herself with him. And then same with her friends. Like when she realized Tamira was in trouble and Tamira came to her for help, because they used to be friends back in the day. Yeah. She felt pressure to push her away, just like all of her American friends. That was the inciting incident because they broke the vessel that the demon was trapped in during their disagreement.
It's basically a demon that is in this jar that has to be contained within a vessel. It's actually based upon real folklore, because when I did the reaction to the trailer, some Indian folks got in my comments and they were like, yeah, this is based upon a real thing that, we were told when we were kids and stuff. For me, this is not a particularly good horror film for me. What I did like about it is the social commentary. They should have stuck there with the social commentary.
Yeah, so what drew me to this film was actually a movie we reviewed earlier called Tumbad. And in that movie, there was a whole unique villain that derived from India, and it had rules that were new to me. And I thought it was like really interesting and a fresh take on like a story of greed, So when I heard about this story about a villain that came also from India, I was like, oh, maybe there'll be something new to this guy, something interesting, and it clearly seems to live in a vessel, like maybe some sort of a genie or something, So I was really interested in that. But for me, what was disappointing to me was that the movie was kind of run of the mill. Like the villain itself, he didn't really have any like special rules or anything like that made him unique. He was really just kind of like running after you in the dark, Again, I agree with you. The social commentary I thought was interesting and much more engaging, but unfortunately, that's like a teeny tiny bit of this movie. The bulk of the movie deals with this demon that was initially trapped in a jar and that's out, and Sam has to try and retrap it into something. She's got to find some sort of a vessel to retrap it. And I like the idea. They were like, oh, this demon, it got carried over from India. Like it too is an immigrant, right? It too is in a foreign land. Because there's a mystery around a character that we never see, a character who apparently committed suicide, although whether or not he did or not is unclear. And apparently he had the demon at some point, and then Tamira got the demon, and now Sam's got it. Or I guess Sam doesn't really have it, but it's Sam's problem now, you know?
Right. They over here playing hot potato with this
Exactly.
demon,
So that kind of stuff I thought was cool. But once the demon got out of the vessel, and she had to figure out how to contain it, the movie became just a very
same thing that you've seen over and over again.
Right. Unfortunately, just not very unique. And to me, that made the movie feel slower, and it felt almost like a made-for-TV type movie.
Oh, for sure, dude.
Well, yeah,
for sure. Like CW.
Yeah. and again, you could tell the writer, who was also the director, was really motivated to tell the story about a second-generation immigrant. But when it came to the demon, I even felt like the movie itself was bored of the demon. So
yeah,
the monster's Indian origins, it didn't feel as integral to the characters or to the story as much as the whole second generation story did. I like that in order to beat the monster, she had to kind of come to a truce with her mother, and she had to learn from her mother, who actually knew about this monster. And the mother's like, well, traditionally we give him an offering.
The offering, people, is food, okay? And then the demon walks to the table, looks at the table, and then he's like, I don't want this goddamn food.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, man, like, what's wrong with you? I don't want that shit. I want your souls. I was cracking up.
Yeah, so like that was kind of the issue with their offering. Their family were I think they were vegan. I'm not sure they're vegan or vegetarian, but they didn't eat meat. But they're like, for this particular demon, the offering has to be meat. And so when he went for the offering and he looked at the table, their spread, there was no meat, so he didn't want it. But that actually is part of the movie that I did like. Like I said, every time they kind of get back to the movie's like Indian origins, I like that a lot. I like that the mother and the daughter bonded over preparing the food, preparing their traditional dishes. Every time they came back to the Indian story, I liked that. But the movie, I felt like the movie wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't confident in that, or maybe they didn't think that was fascinating enough, because they kept kind of pushing that away so that the demon could start running after people. And every time I did that, I shifted into my chair and I checked my watch, and because all that, I thought all that stuff was kind of boring and generic.
Like the whole time when the demon was going after her teacher, I'm like, wait, so what?
The demon doesn't just attack its target, it wants to torture them. Like, apparently it like softens you up or tenderizes you by making you lose your mind. So it haunts and it hurts the people around you, which makes you, I guess, nervous, and you start to like go insane. And of course, that's what happened to Tamira, right? Like, cause she hadn't slept in days. She had the circles around her eyes, her hair was all over her face, and so again, some of that stuff I like, but it was never really presented interestingly. In the movie Smile wasn't particularly unique either, but it was how the story was presented. Right, it was so strictly from our main character's point of view. Anytime she tried to explain what was happening to someone, the more insane she sounded. Right, so it was it like her trying to ask for help only backfired. Right, and so that frustration was where we got tension in this film. But when our main character asked for help from the teacher was like, "All right, I'll play along." And then when she asked, for help from her mom was like, "Oh yeah, I know that demon." So like there was no tension. It was just kind of boring at times, which sucks.
You know what other film that we saw earlier this year that this definitely reminds me of, especially the demon? It reminds me of the Boogeyman. We saw the Boogeyman earlier this year.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Almost exactly like that.
Where this entity was latched on to a certain person and then it's passed on, and it hid in the shadows, never came out into the light. It's like they went next door and be like, what you working on?
Yeah, the movie was just too familiar. You know what I mean? It's too familiar. And if you're going to be that familiar, like I said with Smile, then you need to present it differently, or it's got to be something unique here. And I think they tried to do that with the immigrant story, with them trying to tell this Indian story. But I felt like they would pick that up and they drop it every 10 minutes. One thing about the demon I thought could have been interesting, but the movie didn't really do anything with. Like, they were like, oh, you can contain this demon in any vessel, anything.
Yeah.
Including a human. So I was like, oh, okay. What happens to a human when they, contain the demon? And so they actually do contain the demon in a human. And they promptly flashed forward a year. So I'm like, so I guess nothing happened. And there's a shot of her. The last shot of her is like a tear coming down her eye.
Glory tear.
And I'm like, what does that mean? What am I supposed to, is it trying to break out, or is it hurting her? Or I don't know.
So with this being a generic run-of-the-mill horror film that you've seen over and over again, like we literally saw a film just like this a few months ago with the Boogeyman. There's nothing new here. So I'm gonna have to give this film a C-.
C-, yep. That's what I'm gonna give it to, a C-. And for me, because the movie was so painfully generic and I felt like I could feel the movie moving beat by beat by beat, you know me, I started looking in the background, I started looking at other things in the film to entertain myself. And there was a point, this is real ticky-tacky, but there's a point where she looks at her phone, right? You clearly see it says 4 p.m. And she's like, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, great. And the next scene is dark. And I'm like, what? Because she goes to a party and it's dark at the party. So I'm like, did it take her 4 hours to get to the party? So like,
exactly.
So for me, this was a unfortunately generic film with a seed. There's like a little seed of potential in here, right? But that seed never got a chance to grow, never got a chance to blossom. It just kind of sat there with all its potential untapped.
Do you recommend people going to see it?
I do not. I think there are 100 movies with this exact same plot that are made better that you could watch. I wasn't even that big of a fan of The Boogeyman, but I thought that was better.
Yeah. I don't recommend this for you guys to go see this in the theaters. I don't even recommend you seeing this on streaming.
Which sucks because this is the exact movie that I want to see. I say it a million times. I like movies with female leads. I like movies with non-white people. I like movies about stories that I hadn't heard before from different cultures. This movie checks all those boxes. But unfortunately, it's just not made very well.
But more importantly, do you recommend this film? Have you seen It Lives Inside? Please get in the comments and let us know what you thought about it. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. We really appreciate you guys, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys in the comments and letting us know what you thought of these films. So if you're new to seeing our face, please hit that subscribe button right at the bottom right. It is free. It costs you nothing. I'm looking at it too. It's right there. And if you did like this rating and review for this film, please hit that thumbs up. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion. Just remember one thing. It is mostly wrong. See you in another film.